Hello to the curious and welcome to this new tutorial series where we build an e-learning platform with Next.js 13, MUI, Strapi as a headless CMS server and much more. Now we're going to cover quite a bit, so what I've done is I've presented the information about everything we're going to go over for you, so stay tuned for that. That's coming up next. But before we jump into that, make sure to like and subscribe for all the videos that are going to follow for this series so you keep up to date and know exactly when they're about to drop. Hit the bell notification so that you get told basically when it comes out. So let's get started and build this e-learning platform. So as we're building an e-learning app, we probably should know what we're actually building. So let's go check that out now. The obvious is we're building an e-learning platform similar to Treehouse, Udemy, Skillshare, etc. We have video courses that the user can go through bit by bit, have progress, and eventually complete it. And that's essentially the core of it. So video courses. We're obviously going to have the user be able to sign up, be able to authenticate, only be able to access parts of the site where they're authenticated, which also means that they're going to need a user profile page building. And one of the biggest parts of this is actually using Strapi as a headless CMS to take all the information from its backend in very small API endpoints, and then we're going to use that. So for example, courses are probably going to have their own API, users are probably going to have their own API endpoints, and then we're just going to access those and get all the information we need for the user or the courses, etc. Then we're also going to be using Cloudinary to host our videos and images. So video is obviously going to be probably very large, and we want to be able to have kind of a CDN setup. So wherever you are in the world, you're going to have the fastest possible access to this video. Very importantly, we're also going to be able to track progress of the users. So as users go through video to video, it should know that, oh yeah, they completed this video, they've watched this video, and maybe they've even completed the entire section or course. So that'll be quite a good one to do. And much more. There'll be plenty that we're going to cover and much more. There's plenty that we're going to be building. Probably too much to list in here, but these are some of the core ones. But what technologies are we actually using? Figma is going to be a really important one. That's where we're going to host our designs. That's where we're going to check to see if our sizings are correct. We're going to double check, make sure that the icons we're using and everything essentially looks about right. Next.js, obviously, that is going to be our front-end framework built on React. We're going to be using Sass and CSS modules, a lot of which is already built into Next.js and Material UI. So I think for this, all we're really going to need to do is install Sass. I think CSS modules already comes kind of built in with Next.js. Typescript goes without saying. Bismuth. So you might not have heard of Bismuth if you haven't watched the last few videos. The Bismuth is essentially our own template for Next.js, TypeScript, and CSS, Sass projects. It has a lot built in. It's a starter template. It's to enable us to get going really fast. So that'll be a part of what we're doing as well. Strapi, obviously, that's the headless CMS that we're going to be using. So essentially we get to enjoy the fact that we get to access the endpoints for courses and users and things like that, but also have the GUI of the CMS, so the graphical user interface of Strapi, to be able to go in and do all the things and create the content, have the, similar to WordPress, you're able to drag and drop and do things. It's just going to be really good. Storybook, obviously to work on components in isolation. Now this is going to be a multi-video format. So that means that we're going to make sure that we break down all these tasks and all these features over a handful of videos, just to make viewing a bit more digestible rather than having a large 2, 3, 7, 8 hour video. Now what will we actually learn? So we're going to be building a full stack application with Next.js as the front end, and Strapi as the backend, and Cloudinary and Vercel on the hosting and server side. So obviously we're using Next.js as our front-end framework. So you're going to be learning a lot about Next.js 13, particularly the app routed side of things. So if you're interested in that, that's all in here. We're going to be using Material UI, which is used by some of the biggest companies in the world. Off the top of my head, I believe Spotify, Amazon, Netflix, you name them, NASA, they all use it. And then paired with that, we're going to be using CSS modules as well to scope our styling to our components. We're going to be working with APIs, obviously, because Strapi is going to provide us with lots of different content types, lots of different endpoints. So this project is going to be a really good place to learn APIs and how we get the data and use it. If you want to learn how Headless Strapi actually works, this is a really good tutorial for you. So as we're using Next.js 13, we're going to be using React 18. So we're going to need to learn how to use modern React practices and do them well. So that'll all be in this tutorial as well. And we'll also be looking at employing some clever TypeScript strategies as we go along, as we build our fetch helper commands and all kinds of things along the way. And as we're using React 18 and Next.js, we're going to be using functional programming. You may not have a choice if you're using React to get with functional programming, but we'll be covering that as well. And as we're using Strapi as our endpoint and Vercel and Cloudinary, this is going to be a full stack app. So there's a whole bunch to learn. We're going to start at the design stage. We're going to go through the front end, and then we're going to go right to the back end integration. We're going to work on the data layer, and finally deployment. And we're going to have a continuous deployment setup. So this is a full stack app. This is going to be something that you can put forward as a full stack application, if it is a portfolio or just something you want to learn and learn how a full stack app actually works. And much, much more. There's plenty to learn on this project, I'm sure, but the only way to actually learn that is to get going. So let's get set up. So just before we jump into the code, I want to show you the designs very quickly. So you can see here, this is our light mode version of the website. Everything above this line, I would say, is more high fidelity, which means it's of higher quality in design terms. This is our toggle for our light and dark mode. So obviously this is in light mode, we'll show it in dark mode. It'll be fairly different. This is our header, this is our alert component, and this is our hero with a call to action to start a free trial with our image. We've got our search bar component here. So we'll be able to search through courses, and we'll also be able to filter them by difficulty rating and topic. So, if you want to look for JavaScript courses or if you want to look for CSS courses, you'll be able to do so through something like this. So over here, we've got a very basic wireframe of our courses. So these will all be course tiles. We're going to have individual courses in here. So our JavaScript mastery course or a CSS courses will go here. The designs for them will be done later. This is kind of to understand the shape of it. And you can see here, this is where our footer will go, but we've not exactly defined it. It's just a low fidelity design to say that's where it'll be. Text will generally be centralized here, but we'll show that later on in the series. But yeah, generally this is the layout. Here is the color scheme. So we have our colors here. So generally, these are the colors that we'll be using. Obviously success, error, warning, and this will be our body color, our primary colors, and some of our accent colors. This is a very basic design, and it will evolve as we go through the series. But for now, I think it gives you an idea of what we're building. Right, let's jump into the code. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you've created a Git repository. So if you've got a GitHub account, GitLab, Bitbucket, whatever, just make sure you go and create yourself a repository. If you're in GitHub, just go here, click New Repository, and create yourself one, call it whatever you want. And then just make sure to have this handy, git remote add origin, so we want the origin really. This is really the only line that you're really going to need. Now at this point you could do two things. You could go to Bismuth, which is our starter kit. I'll leave the link for it in the description. And you can essentially just clone this down and then change the, which is the origin here, to whatever your repository here is. And then you're done. And then you can just carry on with the tutorial. But if you want to start from scratch, I'll show you how to do that as well. So if you don't want to use Bismuth, I'll show you how to quickly set it up now, and we can get going with the project. So let's do that now. Oh, and just for clarity, whichever you use, you'll end up at the same point, except this has a nicer starting page. So the first thing you need to do is make sure you are in your sites folder. And then we want to create our e-learning app. I'm going to call mine Curious Courses. So that'll be the name of my project. And make sure to add the TypeScript flag here so that you put it into TypeScript mode. So let's click enter. Yes, would like ESLint. No Tailwind CSS on this project. No, we're going to be using the app router. No, we don't need to customize it. We're happy with the default. And we'll let that install. And then we just cd into Curious Courses. We'll also want to make sure we're installing, MUI. So go in here, install MUI material, emotion, React, and emotion style. These are the style engines for MUI, which allow it to work. So we'll install that. And as we are using MUI, we need to make sure that we're installing SAS as well. So we'll do that. Finally, we want to make sure that we have installed Strapi. So we'll install it globally first. So if you go here, npm install Strapi, and you can see this global modifier here, which is essentially meaning that we can use Strapi now anywhere in any project. And then what we want to do is we want to actually create our Strapi server, and we'll just call it Strapi, within the project itself. So we'll go npx create Strapi app, which is something we've just installed. I'll call the folder Strapi and I'll put it as quick start so we can get going quickly. Yes, okay to proceed. Brilliant. And you can see that we're into Strapi now. So we'll put in Curious Byte as the name, put in an email address. Brilliant. And when you're happy with that, sign up. And one of the first things we want to do is actually just go to the settings here and just grab an API token. So we'll create a new API token and we'll just call it Curious Courses. Unlimited. You can change it to whatever you want. We'll say full access. So we'll save that for now. Let's go grab this API token. So now that we've done that, let's open up VS Code. And we can see our project here now. So we've got our app directory. We have Strapi in here. But what we want to do is just create an env file. So we want to create an env file with this information. This should remain the same on any of your projects as the first starting point. And we'll just add our API key that we just created. So we'll go back here, grab that, and just paste that in. And that should give us permission to use now the Strapi API. So that's all connected. So let's run this and see what this looks like. So we need to make sure that we're using npm run dev. Let's go check it out. There we go. So that is the project right now. And if you're using Bismuth, you'll essentially get to the same stage, but you'll have the Bismuth starting screen, which in my opinion is cooler. So there's both ways to get started. Let's go back and just quickly tidy this up. So we'll go to page and just within here, we'll go ahead and delete all of that. Save, and then we'll refresh that. Okay, so that is the project right now. So let's go back to Strapi. So we've got that running on localhost leet, and we're just going to create a quick type of content. So we go to content type builder here, and I'll make this a little bigger so it's easy to read. So we'll go to create new collection type and we'll call it courses. And we will click continue. Singular version, continue. We'll have a very simple text here and we'll call it title. Click finish. And what else can we add? We'll add a description as well. So we'll go description. So we're adding a title and description. And the amazing thing about Strapi is you can essentially build out your API really, really quickly. So this will be of type string, no doubt. And you're already adding basically data for your endpoints. So we have title and description. And then we can go to content manager here. After we save it. And then we can go to content manager here. So we can go to, and then once we're here, click create new entry. So we'll call it a masterclass in full stack app development. We'll put Next.js full stack app development. Make sure we add an R. We go and create 4 full stack projects in Next.js of varying sizes and technologies. Let's just put that in as an example. Forgot the N, so that's 1. Let's go and create another one. To create a new entry, we'll say advanced JavaScript, and we'll say this is an advanced JavaScript course that utilizes that demonstrates the latest, that uses the latest standards. Let's just do that as a quick description. Save that. So now we've got 2 courses. So we've got this masterclass in Next.js full stack app development and advanced JavaScript. So save that, and that's quickly done. So we now have 2 bits of content. And what we'll do is we'll create a simple fetch function just to show that this works. So we'll go back to the project. We'll go here and just under home, we'll create a very simple fetch function. Import that from React. So we have our course data here. We're going to have our fetch query here, and we'll say the base URL is Strapi. So if you remember this Strapi API URL, and then we're asking for courses, which we've just created, and we're going to store that in data, and we're going to set that data with our useState, and then we're just going to console log that. So we'll create a button here, and we'll use MUI. And we will say fetch query. Let's make sure we import this. We'll grab that fetch courses. Make this an arrow function. Right, let's go check this out. Aha, right, so fun times. We need to use the use client abbreviation for now. Okay, let's just add a variant on this to get some styling. So variant, and we'll put contained. Cool. Let's open the inspect. Let's go to console. So we're currently getting a 403 forbidden. So let's just go to Strapi and just make sure we've got permissions for that. So what we need to do is make sure we go into users and permissions, go to roles, and just change some permissions, because essentially we haven't added authentication yet. So you'll be one of these public users who hasn't authenticated. So this is the average person who goes to the site. And we need to allow them to be able to do these callbacks. We'll go to course and just select all for now, and then click save. And if we go back here, refresh, and click Fetch Courses. So one thing I realized I forgot to do is actually publish these two types of content. So if we go here and click Publish, and then go back, and then publish these two, we can now see that these are both published. And then when we go to Create Next App and click Fetch Courses, we can now see both of our bits of data in here. So we've got our metadata when it was created, the description, the title, and any other information here. So a masterclass in Next.js, we have advanced JavaScript with the description as well. So this is an advanced JavaScript course. There we go. So now we are connected to Strapi. We are almost there. So that's a big part of the way there. We can take it a little bit further. So what we want to do is just go back and make sure our layout component is updated. So we'll just call this Curious Courses for now. And we'll just leave this as a description of front-end courses for the web dev learner. I don't know, we'll leave it like something like that. Yeah, and we're pretty happy with this. So we're happy with that layout component. And I believe that is everything. Let's just go to the README here. We'll just add this. So we'll say Curious Courses, and we'll say this is an e-learning platform with Next.js 13 and Strapi. Cool. Save that. I think we're pretty much safe to go. So we'll go here. We'll close one of these down. We do not want to commit the env file. So let's go to git ignore. Put .env as well. Just make sure, yep, that's omitted now. So let's git add all, and then git commit message of initial commit. And then we do need to go back and grab this line, which essentially remote adds the origin. So grab that, go here, add the remote origin, git push, set it upstream. Yes. So when you're done with that, make sure to publish your changes up to GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, wherever you're holding your changes. And that should be the first initial step done. We've set up Next.js 13. We've set up the Strapi CMS server. We've even connected the two together. So now that we're working on some kind of data layer, we also have the endpoint courses set up, and we've created 2 courses already. And we've installed Material UI. And we now have the app fetching data from our courses API. So we've set up the project now. That's amazing. We've got Next.js and Strapi talking to one another with the courses API. We're able to fetch the data successfully and get all of it. We understand how the CMS works a bit with creating content and how quickly we can spin up API endpoints and publish content for them and use them. So this is a front-end developer's best friend, essentially, to be able to create endpoints and APIs very, very quickly by themselves. So you can start to see how powerful Strapi is. Now in the next video, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at authentication. So we're going to be looking to use Strapi's authentication to log in a user and then work on the authenticated session to maybe change the header, to have a user profile page, for example, and all kinds of other things. So if that sounds interesting, make sure to like and subscribe so you know when the next video drops, and all the subsequent videos in the tutorial series for an e-learning platform. Follow me on the hashtag as well to get notified when the next projects are being worked on and when the next video might drop. You'll probably get told a lot earlier on than you would just waiting for it to come out on YouTube. But otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one.